I think that it is sort of a strange phenomenon that a long-term governor from a large Republican state is out, and someone whose only qualification is celebrity is leading the pack. And I think there is a certain amount of irony there that people are going to wake up, and I kind of predict that this could be the beginning of significant scrutiny for the celebrity in the race, because people are going to start to say to themselves, oh my goodness, maybe this sort of bizarre fandom by even the media could lead to really a selection process that isn't the best for the country.
Tonight you offered a critique regarding the way in which he built his casinos and the
Right.
use of eminent domain.
Well, not only the way he builds them, but he said on record that he thinks the Kelo case, he's 100% for it. And you won't find one conservative in America that knows what the Kelo case is that's for it. The Kelo case allowed private property to be taken from smaller owners and be given to big corporate owners. It is an anathema to those of the Tea Party. It's an anathema to those who are property rights advocates. And he says he's 100% for it. Things like that will add up. Ultimately, people will say, oh yeah, he can call people fat and stupid, but he also doesn't believe in property rights. So people are going to get over maybe this sophomoric craze that, well, he says, he calls people names and they think it's funny somehow. At least somebody must. And they're going to get over that and say, well, my goodness, is he really a conservative? That's why I've been saying for weeks now he's a fake conservative, and I'm going to say it at every venue because he gives us ample information to indicate that he's not really a conservative.
Speaking of venues, on the debate stage, is that a place on which you plan to pursue this line of attack?
Well, see, what I have is I have like 400 people that tell me what I should do, and then the last minute I kind of decide what I want to do, and so no one's ever really happy with me about it, so I haven't decided yet, but I'm not going to back away. I don't shy away from a fight, and I'm not going to back away from describing him as a fake. I truly think he's a fake conservative, and that this is all about his celebrity, but I don't think there's anything genuine or sincere about what he believes.
Is there a frustration that in these debates and how they're structured, that when you're allowed a 30-second, that you can't even question another candidate's qualifications like you can on your own?
Well, part of the problem is it's a self-reinforcing and self-fulfilling cycle in the sense that they say, well, so-and-so has higher polls, so we're going to give them twice as much time. Then they have twice as much in the polls because they got twice as much time. And so I think that it should be maybe a little more complicated process in determining how you do it. I can't tell the media what to do. I mean, the media is in charge.
But isn't the RNC also in charge?
I think the media more is. I don't think the RNC can tell each network how to do their debates. But I do think that when you look at polling, there's a lot of different polls. There's how well you're doing in Iowa, which is a pretty important poll, and some might argue is probably more important than a national poll. There's also how you poll against the Democrats, which I would say is an extraordinarily important poll. But there's also organizational things. I mean, we announced tonight that we have 300 college campuses organized around the country, one in every of the 50 states, 15 in Iowa. I mean, that's a considerable amount of work and effort, and shows that we have enough people. We also have the ability to turn out 500 to 600 kids. Now, maybe not everyone I'm supporting, but they're at least curious enough to come. So I think it's evidence of a significant campaign effort going on. And I think maybe we ought to add up all of that to determine, how many questions a person gets or how much time they get.
We just saw a county clerk in your state be jailed for contempt of court. Going up against the Supreme Court ruling on marriage. How, in the light of that Supreme Court ruling, can we defend religious liberty and conscience? How do you hold those two things?
I think there can be a compromise that comes about that really I think could work for everyone. In Kentucky we have a law called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. In it, it says that elected officials specifically can have some accommodation for their religious beliefs. She's not asking not to file the contracts, she's just asking not to sign the contracts. And so I think a judge could easily look at that and say, well, she wouldn't be preventing anything from occurring, she'd just be not putting her signature on it. And so I do have some sympathy for that, and I think the judge went overboard in putting her in jail. when I think that the Religious Freedom Act could have been adjudicated and there could have been an accommodation made for them. I'm getting tired, so only a couple more.
Yeah, Senator, you have
And
put
they
a
haven't
lot.
fed me. I didn't get any food.
I didn't either.
All right.
So you have put a lot of effort into organizing college campuses, and as you said, your party hasn't been very good at speaking to younger voters. Why do you think that is?
It's not, I think it's maybe for lack of having something to say. I feel comfortable here because I know a lot of the issues that I talk about resonate. Now, does every kid in there smoke pot? No, maybe very few of them do anymore. I don't really know. But do they want to put people in jail for smoking pot? I'd say almost none of them think that you should go to jail for smoking pot. And some people, for example, I think Jeb Bush has a problem here in the sense that he admits he smoked pot when he was in high school, and yet he still wants to put people in jail for pot. And the problem is the people who go to jail are poor and black primarily in our country. It just is a fact. You look at the jails, poor, black, and brown, that's who's in jail for drugs. You look at marijuana arrests in our cities, it's sometimes 15 to 20 to 1 black. Mostly it's proximity to crime and it adds up that way. But I think it's hypocritical for someone who went to an elite school and knew that the police were never coming to Andover, and yet he's still for, not only, he's against medical marijuana, for goodness sakes. So you know what they do? If my child has seizures and I want to give them medical marijuana, if the federal government came in and said your state can't do that, it means taking the child away from the parents or putting someone in jail for giving the kid cannabis oil. So we should have a discussion about this, but it also makes that kind of idea not very popular here. So, because I think a kid, whether they ever smoked pot or not, I think they're at least sympathetic to the fact that their friend who did maybe doesn't need to go to jail, particularly doesn't need to have a felony record, lose their ability to vote, lose their opportunities for employment. All right, anybody
Senator,
not get a question?
The Club for Growth has started reaching out to Republican donors, asking them to give money to a campaign, an expensive TV, paid media campaign to take down Donald Trump. Is that a good idea? Do you want to see these well-funded Republican groups go directly after Trump on the airwaves? Is that a way to bring the scrutiny that you're talking about that's necessary?
I believe Trump's a fake conservative, and we need to point it out at every venue. I don't control what other groups do, obviously, but I am for Mrs. Combat. He's in front, and we need to point out what he stands for or what he has stood for in the past, and so people can make a real decision. If I had to make a guess, I think he's crested and he's headed for a fall. And because I think people are going to wake up and say, oh my goodness, this man could be in charge of our nuclear weapons. A guy that just stood up and called a former CEO who's running for president, called her ugly or whatever he said. It's just like, do you really think someone with that kind of juvenile, junior high kind of attitude should be in charge of our nuclear arsenal? People are going to wake up and are going to say that this is insane. And I think other candidates are going to quit being shy about it, and they need to quit being shy about it because otherwise they're going to wind up with Donald Trump as their nominee.
All right.
I think I've said enough about Donald